Hello and welcome to the Ask Me Anything sessions here in the Rapyd office in the Working Capital building in Singapore. If you're hanging out in the virtual map, you will have hopefully found us via the networking zone. We're in the Boat Quay area of Singapore on the map. The format of these sessions is very relaxed and interactive, and we're really looking for audience participation. So hopefully you've had some time to catch some of the other sessions. Hopefully it's piqued some interest in a few topics, and you'll be able to jump in and ask some interesting questions of our guests today. I'll be referring to my phone periodically throughout the session. I'm not checking on the football scores. It's just that's where your questions pop up. But most importantly, I'd like to welcome Ned from Bambu as our guest today. Bambu is a wealth management firm looking at the next generation of wealth management, and we're going to dive right into that. So Ned, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. How are you doing? Okay?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Why don't you start us off, for those of you who don't know that much about you, and not so much about Bambu. Just dive right in and tell us, how did you arrive in this chair today?
That gets a little detailed in the chair today. I was kindly invited by Rapyd, but I assume you mean the bigger picture.
Of course.
So, look, I'm a late starter in the whole fintech or the startup world. So I'm 53, but I've been in fintech for about 25 years. So I think there's this narrative that fintech is quite new, which is true. This kind of latest wave of fintech is pretty new. But people have been trying to kind of digitize everything around financial information and money for a long time. So I've been, you tell by my accent, I'm from the UK. I moved to Asia 30 years ago when I was very young. I'm now slightly old. And I luckily ended up at a small company in the 90s that got bought by E-Trade. If you remember E-Trade, one of the first online brokers. And that was in like the late 90s. And when I was like a stockbroker, old school, selling stocks on the phone. And when we got bought by E-Trade, I remember I said to them, what's E-Trade? They're like, it's an online broker. And I said, what's an online broker? It seemed remarkably weird at the time. And I think the reality was, even though I'm not an engineer by background, I'm not a tech guy, I'm more of a business guy, I think that started that journey of fintech. So E-Trade was one of the very first companies to put stock trading online. Today, Robinhood's taken that forward. And I was in that space for a long time. I then spent two jobs, 10 years building stock exchanges. So I designed and built stock exchanges. And then, I was 47, a little midlife crisis, not working, doing fintech consultancy, i.e. not working. And I saw that this kind of B2B robo space was growing. Banks needed to digitize wealth. I met my co-founder, who's a real tech guy. And, I think we got the idea that he can build, I can sell.
Perfect.
Exactly. We started Bambu as this B2B company. And what do? We design and build and integrate Roboadvisors. So automated investment solutions. It's been a great journey. We're 4 years in, based in Singapore, deploying globally. And that's how I ended up here today.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I'm chasing you, quite enthusiastically in the age stakes, and I am old enough to remember E-Trade. And you're right. I mean, at the time, it was a completely new way of leveraging the internet. You had all of these companies, trying to find ways to derive a commercial outcome using internet platforms at the time, including huge numbers of companies purporting to, allow you to manufacture your own T-shirts. I'm not sure if you remember that.
I do.
That came up in conversation this morning. So, fast forward to now. I mean, we've come such a long way, and we haven't, right? So why is this still a problem? I mean, the internet's been around for a long time. Stockbroking has been around since since we've had the ability to hold portions of companies. Why have we not moved so far? Yet the tech is available.
It's a great question. So it's a really great question, and let's split it into two. Okay. There's trading online, which is what Robinhood has taken the next step forward.
Awesome.
Whether in the right direction or not, we can debate on millennials buying stocks in the way they do, but that's a different topic. But then there's investment. So let's split it into two. Stock trading, really today, I think everyone accepts. How many people call their broker to buy a stock today? Virtually none. Okay, so I think stock trading has moved on to a digital engagement that's really, I think really good. I still think, unfortunately, the ability for most people to save and invest for their future is still in the infancy. So there's a phrase, there's a comment I heard from someone else. I'm going to claim it as mine. I can't remember who said it, but I love it. So if you heard it here the first time,
safe space.
Exactly. You could say you heard it from Ned, but I heard it from someone else. No one wakes up in the morning thinking I want to buy a balanced equity portfolio today.
Yep.
We all wake up and are like, oh, I'd like to have a better financial life. I'd like to save for retirement. I mean, you don't think that, but instinctively,
yep.
we're not buying the investment products to buy the investment products.
Yes.
There's not the products themselves don't do what, they're not the outcome. The outcome is you've saved enough for retirement, you're able to achieve your goals. And I think that the industry in wealth has been segmented. You either need to have enough money, depending on the country, 50,000, 100,000, to have an advisor.
Yes.
Or you didn't have enough money and therefore you didn't think you could get financial advice. And I think that's why we haven't achieved enough yet. I think there's still this gap to bridge between, I've heard this phrase, I don't have, from say a millennial, which I'm clearly not, I don't have enough money to get advice.
Yeah.
Like I have a 20-year-old daughter, and if she wants to save $100 and she walked into a bank and said, hi, I'd like to get a financial advisor to tell me how to save $100.
Yep.
Probably, and it's not because the bank's doing a bad job, it's just not a commercial reality. And I think we're at the start of this journey of saying saving and investing for your financial future is a right for everybody. Everybody, it doesn't matter if you've got $1 or $1 billion.
Yes.
And even if you have $1 billion, you deserve a better experience. And if you've got $1, and so as Bambu, we realized that on the B2B side, the financial institutions, I would say 5 years ago, and if you're a financial institution, I'm just going to say it, you probably didn't think about your customers' goals in the same way. You wanted to sell them products. But today, even in the 4.5 years Bambu's been around, financial institutions really care.
Yeah.
They know that they're competing with technology companies that are going to help people achieve their goals. So they're trying to understand data and not just sell them products. And I think in 5 or 10 years' time, the ability for everyone will be able to save and invest.
Yes.
Today, where are we? 5% of the journey, I feel.
I think that's a really powerful point, right? And you're right. My 20-year-old daughter is actually quite good at building businesses, but no idea around how to plan for a future.
Correct.
But I guess from my perspective, when we look at the fintech media, when we look at everything that's happening, there's a lot of discussion about robo-advisory, right? It's prolific the way that everyone's talking about that in the wealth space.
Yep.
Are you sure there's not too many robo-advisors?
Well, I'm going to say I knew you were going to ask me that because I asked you to ask me that. So we can say it as it is. So we're in Singapore, and we're on the camera now, but we're in the Boat Quay area, according to the virtual world in which we live. But if you went on the real streets, and again, for all of you around the world, this is a Singapore-specific comment. If you went to maybe the non-fintech areas of Singapore, which is basically everywhere, be it Woodlands, Clementi, Jurong, and Changi, and you walked in the streets and said, hi, do you have a robo-advisor?
Yes.
You're going to get almost 100% blank looks at you.
Yep.
And similarly, do you have good financial advice that's delivered digitally?
Yes.
I think you're going to get similarly number of looks that are not clear. Before we went virtual, if I stood up at a fintech conference and said, hey, everybody, if you think robo's overdone, I have a survey. Okay, so we're all in a fintech space here. You can do this on camera if you want.
Yep.
Put up your hand if you currently save and invest with a robo-advisor. I would get 2 or 3% of the audience in the fintech audience.
Yep. Well, I can actually see no hands raised here today, so I think that I think the survey proves out your point.
There we go. What is it? Lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? We can make statistics prove anything. But in the B2B space, so there's 2 spaces. There's the B2C, and we're in Singapore. So whether it's Stashaway in Singapore or Nutmeg in the UK or Betterment, they've done a fantastic job of growing awareness that saving and investment in a digital application is for everybody. And I think in every country, so we're lucky at Bambu, we've built for clients in Brazil, America, UAE, we're building in Indonesia, Singapore, etc. I think the financial institutions realize they have a choice, partner, buy, build, that conversation. But they haven't built robo-advisors before. And it's not just a click of a finger, it's not just, digitize my website.
Yep.
So they realize that there's more to it than just offering funds. So is it a crowded space? I deeply believe not, partly because as Bambu, we have more demand than supply, so we have more institutions calling us than we can serve as indication. And I think it's just natural. I think customers will expect that their saving and investment in the future will be digital, and we're not there yet. So no, I really don't think it's overdone. I think we're just at the beginning, and I think we talked about this Robo 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Where will it be in 10 years? I definitely have some thoughts, but we're just at the beginning of the journey.
I think, and thank you for that. I think that's that's an important place to start conversations in wealth, because it's very easy to assume, if you do look at it and you look at the number of wealth products available, there's oodles, but whether or not that's connecting with the maximum number of people that need access to that is a really important question. So how do you think about that? You touched on it briefly in your last comment, but through the organisations that you work with, how do you look at that inclusiveness aspect of wealth? How do we look at those who are most excluded? Where, say, wealth today is geared towards people who probably don't need to invest to survive, but are investing for a day when they may want a better quality of life.
Correct.
Whereas we've got huge numbers of people that are deprived of access, for whom having a wealth buffer as part of their financial journey could be the difference between them having generational poverty or moving into a more middle class existence for their future generations.
I think it comes, so I used to be a financial advisor. So when I left university, I wasn't very organized, which I'm still not today for everybody who knows me. I'm trying my best, but I didn't get a job.
Yep.
So I ended up in London, sleeping on the couch of my brother's couch, and I saw an advert in the paper, be a financial advisor, so I tried it. It taught me a lot about sales, commission-only door knocking.
Yes.
But the reality is, I think I'm a good person, but it's, you as a financial advisor, you're incentivized to sell products that make you commission.
Yes.
And you're only incentivized to sell to people who can afford to buy it from you.
Yes.
So fast forward, and again, I think the industry is changing fundamentally now. How do we, for the people who can't save and invest, why don't they? It's because in a manual world, i.e. paperwork, financial advisor, the economics are not there.
Yes.
So, and you're right, you can't blame a financial institution for not wanting to do something that's uneconomic. It's, you can't blame them for that.
But their inability to do it doesn't take the right away from the person to access it.
Correct. So somebody needs, if there's this idea that I've heard many times. Oh, I can't afford to save and invest. What? Like, that shouldn't be real.
Yes.
If you have $1, you should be able to start saving and investing. So how do we do that? I think it's an understanding that you just have to have a different service model, which in a sense is digital. What happened massively, I think, is this fractionalization of products.
Yes.
ETFs, mutual funds. If you want to start saving $10, how did you do that before? Well, you couldn't get a mutual fund for $10. Nobody could service that, and there was no economics.
And buying a single stock for $10 is probably not a relatively high-risk strategy.
Correct. But today we've seen that you can start saving and investing for $1.
Yep.
You can get a global portfolio for $1. 5 years ago, that was unthinkable. So I think the change is I can save, I can invest, I can do it for $1. And I think all of the large-scale organizations that we're working with have seen that.
Yeah.
So for them, it's slightly different. They might need to take a bit of a loss leader on that, right? Because is there much money in servicing, say, your daughter or my daughter who's got $100 to save and invest? Yep. Is there much economics in that? Not really. But one day, will they be good customers? Hope so.
Yes.
So I think the realization is changing. We're seeing it a lot. And I think all financial institutions are realizing that it is a longer game now.
Yeah.
And that digital is just part of it, how it goes forward.
Awesome. I'm going to change tack for a minute now, and I'm going to remind our audience, please throw some questions into the chat. I don't have a inexhaustible well of questions, so the more help I can get, the better. But Ned, we look at, there's a lot of hype around fintech and tech in particular,
yep.
and very much in the startup community. We see the celebration of these sort of young entrepreneurs in their 20s who are, running around doing all these amazing things. And what's it like when you're, more at our end of the age spectrum,
yep.
To be in this industry? What have you found the strengths of that? Because there's some assets around
yep.
that. And what have you found? Have you found any challenges at all?
Yeah. So one little point of that on my own, from my personal side. So I was going to say at the end of every day when I go home from work. Obviously, recently we've been home from
yep.
work. But at the end of a working day, which has been long, my wife says to me, "How was that?" And I said, "That is the most fun I've ever had."
Yep.
She said, "That's great because it's the least you've ever been paid." And that is like I've had the best time at Bambu. Maybe it's just a bit of luck in the right timing.
Yep.
Sure, there's been challenges of it. So just for me personally, it's been the most awesome job I've ever had. I mean, I have to say that because it's my own company, but it's the least I've been paid. But that's the rub, right? That's fine. I would say that the positive, in a B2B space, most of my peers at 53 are running financial institutions. So like Standard Chartered or HSBC, I know a lot of these people who are the right people who are going to sign deals for large-scale software implementation.
Yep.
I've dealt with them. I've lived in Asia 30 years. So the biggest advantage is you have a good network.
Yes.
And that's for B2B. I think the challenge is, if, again, my lifestyle, having kids at university and at schools and where we do, if I was 25, I could live on noodles in a cupboard.
Exactly.
I could live on a lower cost base, right? So you're taking a bigger risk at it. I mean, my risk dial is pretty high in my head.
Yep.
I'm a 10 out of 10 risk guy, so I'm pretty happy to shove it all in and go.
Yep.
So I've honestly, no matter what, with Bambu, touchwood, there's no wood, I'm going to touch wood, has been a great experience. It's growing great. We've got more demand than we need. But as a person who's been through the corporate world, which I enjoyed,
I
want to say life change. The difference between doing something like this that works, clearly if it sucked and didn't work, I'd probably be telling you, crying and telling you, this isn't the right thing. But I think I've been lucky that at this age to be able to do this, particularly in B2B.
Yeah.
That's been the biggest thing. It's really worked well.
Awesome. I mean, I think that, for me, we talk about diversity in a lot of aspects. We don't often talk about age diversity, but I think that's equally important in an ecosystem. So, thank you so much for sharing that. Awesome. So thank you to our audience. We've got a question coming in from Ruhan. So I'm going to go out on a limb and just ask this question here.
Go for it.
So what's Kevin OLeary like in real life? Is he like on Shark Tank?
That is a great question. So when we started Bambu, right, you put a list of financial institutions you win a deal from. Of course, you put DBS, OCP, all the good ones, right?
Yeah.
You don't put Kevin OLeary from Shark Tank, right?
Yeah.
2 years in, we get a call out the blue from Kevin OLeary of Shark Tank. Hey, would you like to build me a Roboadvisor? I'm like, yes, of course. So we designed and built his Roboadvisor for him. It's called Beanstalks. It's live. Actually, he just put out his big press release yesterday on Business Insider. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
It's been live for a while, so it's a saving and investment app for first-time investors in America.
Yep.
Here's a crazy stat. 40% of people in America don't have $400 of savings.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts? And that's probably not just America. So a few months ago, we got to go to a tech conference, Finovate, and we demoed Beanstalks on stage. And Kevin OLeary was in New York, so he came on stage with us, and we had the whole day with him. We had breakfast, lunch, he stood in our booth. I don't know, Kevin, you're probably not watching this, but if you are, he's a total sweetheart. He has this, image on Shark Tank, or he's the hard guy. He is an absolute sweetheart. He's been so kind to us. My co-founder, Aki, had done some research, because he's much more in that, and he realized that he was a massive collector of fountain pens.
Yes.
And Aki went out and found this Japanese fountain pen made of bamboo fiber.
Wow.
And we presented it to him at breakfast for all the thanks for working with us. And he wrote such a nice note back to Aki. Hey, look, he's made a lot of money. He's been great. And it's been great for a little company like us to have him.
Yep.
Yeah, whenever I pop on Shark Tank and I see him, I'm like, no, that's our guy. I'm not our guy, but that's the guy. But he's been great. And he is passionate. This Beanstalks app, you'll see, if you Google Beanstalks, he's really genuinely trying to say to young people, start investing today.
Yep.
Truly. I didn't start till I was 38. And then I, now I'm not saving because I'm doing Bambu. But, I tell my daughter, tell them all, Kevin's trying to say, just start, even if it's just $10 a week.
Yes.
Start today. Mm-hmm. Compound interest, eighth wonder of the world. Do it today. So he's been fantastic, super fun.
It's and it's so great to hear you say that, because we have this construct, and with all of the work that's happening. Yep. That the people are so important. So to follow on from that, I just want to say, Ned, thank you so much. You're one of the great people in the industry.
That's
thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yep.
It's been brilliant, and thank you for being so honest with us.
No worries.
To everybody who's tuned in, thank you very much for coming to the AMA sessions at Rapyd. Stay with us here in the Boat Key part of the networking location on the virtual map. We've got a ton more guests coming up. We've got Zach from Kraken, and we've got Praj from Neum coming along as well. So thank you all very much. Hi guys. I just wanted to say, by popular demand, we're actually back. So we wanted to pick up. I was a bit worried about time, and we want to ask quite a few more questions of Ned. And so just picking up on that, Ned, thank you so much for putting up with my misreading of time.
If the audience demands more, René, what can we do, right? Exactly. We have to come back, right?
So just picking up on the last point on people, right? So you were talking about Kevin OLeary.
Sure.
We see him as such a hard taskmaster in a Shark Tank context, but not everybody who pushes us and makes us come up with answers and asks us hard questions wants us to fail. In fact, often they want us to succeed. And this is, to me, hearing that from you was hearing that story from you was, resounded really strongly on that front. When you're building a company like Bambu, when you're thinking about the people that you are working with in the team, when you think about the customers that we're working with, what's important to you around that? How do you think about people in this space?
Oh man, I could talk this all day, René.
Brilliant.
I'm not a tech guy, I'm a people guy. So while I'm passionate about Bambu's technology, I'm extra passionate about the people. So last year, we won Fintech Employer of the Year. If you go to Glassdoor,
well done.
We have, pretty glowing reviews. And, to me, so how do I think about people? I agree. Just, there's a balance, right? Being a hard taskmaster comes in various ways. I'm super energetic about what we do at Bambu, and I always want people to think about doing more. But I have this concept I learned from, and again, Matthias, if you're watching, the guy that used to run E-Trade and ran 8 Securities, which he sold to SoFi, he did a great job. He has this idea that as a boss, your job is to make your team want to come to work. So what I mean by this is, no one pays you to go on holiday, nobody pays you to go to the movies, you pay to do those things because you want to go, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas we pay you to come to work, therefore work must suck. Because you only come in because we paid you.
Yes.
But what if you made work a place that you wanted to come and you got paid? Wouldn't that be amazing? And I think the way to do that is all the cliches, purpose, belief. As a boss, it's not for me to say to the team, you do that, you do that. It's for us to say, can we always do better? I'm going to do better. You guys do better. Let's all try together to make this amazing. And, come at what hours you like, do what you like. It doesn't matter if it's day one, if you have an idea. No one at Bambu will ever have an office, their own office, ever. Full stop. We all sit together. And I think, and again, if my team is watching, if I don't like an idea, I'll say it, but I'll say it with a smile. And it doesn't mean it's wrong, right? And if I like an idea, it doesn't mean we have to do it, because I might be wrong. Yes. And I think this idea that we can always be energetic, respectful, positive, and just throw all the ideas around, and if it isn't good enough, we won't do it, and we will keep doing it endlessly. So, this hard taskmaster piece, I think the narrative of it has to be done in a particular style, I don't agree with. It can be done in a more positive way.
Yep. And how does that go from challenging conversations, right? Sometimes we need to have hard conversations.
For sure.
Yeah, because maybe right now we can't. Maybe an idea is great, but we can't do it right now.
Yep.
Or maybe the way is different. Or maybe somebody's got a really strongly held belief that we need to challenge. I mean, how do you think about that at Bambu?
Yeah. So me and my co-founder.
Yep.
He writes a lot. He's a very, loves writing, super intellectual dude. And he wrote a piece called The Selfless Startup.
Yep.
And so if any of you are out there, if you've gone Medium, Aki ran, it's called The Selfless Startup. And what he wrote was, it was weird that me and him came together as founders, because he's a millennial, I'm old, he's a tech, I'm this, and we pretty much have different views on everything. And it's totally fine, because we can respectfully and talk about it in have ideas different ways. So, number one, if you have different ideas, it's totally fine, right? And we can all debate them. If you have a harder conversation, I have this just complete belief, you do it with positivity and respect.
Yes.
Hey, look, you haven't been performing. Now, what can we do to make it work for you?
Yep.
Right? Rather than this, okay, it's your fault, you sort it out, right?
Yeah.
So I think you can combine this idea that, yes, you have challenging conversations, you have different ideas, but it doesn't have to create this divergence of, oh, they think that, we think that, and you can't come together. Yep. Again, we said we weren't going to go into world politics, but I think there's a simple belief. If you have and this is not Bambu, it's just if you have an opinion and I have an opinion, or we're having a disagreement about something, if I can accept I'm 100% wrong, and you can accept you're 100% wrong, rather than I'm 50% right and you're 50% right, because if you're 50-50, right?
Yep.
Then you're just going to debate around the edges. I'm 100% wrong, I'm 100% right, you're 100% wrong, and you're 100% right. If we start from there, okay, let's try to find out what's in the middle. Yep. If we both jump into the middle ground, you're not going to sort it out. right? Like, and I think, well, I think we spend too much time trying to defend what we believe is correct.
Yes.
I'm guilty of that too.
Yep.
I have strongly held views, and I'm guilty of that too. But not enough time at trying to understand. And again, look, in wealth tech, how many people have built a robo? Hardly any.
Yep.
Like hardly any. Like we have 70 people who only build robots, so I think we're pretty good at it. But I think in robo, we're all learning.
Yeah.
We haven't worked it out. So we have to be humble enough to say, we're trying to work it out, and I hope we're doing a good job.
I think that humility. So if I, when I think about the fintech community, and we talked a bit about this before, and how it feels to be part of the community in different ways. To me, humility is an important part of it. You see firms who approach problems with arrogance don't tend to be very popular in the community, and I think that's because we are all trying to figure this out, right? There's many things we've been doing for a long time. And we've got lots of strongly held assumptions about that. So let's change gears once again a little bit. So with when we talk about the recovery from where we are now in 2020, there's two questions I've got for you.
Okay.
What's been the biggest lesson of 2020? And from that, has that changed or shaped how you're thinking about 2021?
Wow. The biggest lesson from 2020, honestly, is that for me, if you've built a community of people, again, it sounds a little cliched, but if you build a community of people, which I think we have at Bambu, it'll survive anything.
Yep.
For us, we started working from home right away, but because we had spent a long time building this culture at Bambu that we were together, it's okay. Like it stays together. This invisible link of Bambu, call ourselves Bambuians, and I'm sure your startups out there, right? You have that culture. The biggest lesson is that invisible kind of link, but you've got to keep working at it.
Yeah.
So we did, every day I talk to people online, like it's there. So the biggest lesson is culture's crazy important and you can keep it going. Do I think we can keep it going forever, work from home? I'm more of a go back to the office type of guy. So that's the biggest lesson. Work from home can work, but it's not forever. And from there, how will it change Bambu? I think for us, digital's been accelerated for all of us, right? And I am super positive that this idea that everyone deserves the ability to save and invest digitally is now here. I think it was still being debated a year ago. The biggest change, and for a little company like us, every financial institution accepts now, if you don't have a digital presence in wealth, you've not lost, but you're falling behind.
Yeah.
And for us as Bambu, we are very fortunate that having worked on this for 4 years, we have a decent idea of what we're doing. We'd like to do it more. And going forward, I hope in 5 years' time, every financial institution has a saving and investment application, whether they use Bambu or someone else, but I hope they all do.
Yep.
Do I want to be the global leader in it? 100%. I will keep trying until we get there. I wish everyone else who's trying the best as well, but I hope we get there as well.
So Ned, that's I think that's very aspirational. Last kind of question, and I think it's something I've been spending a lot of time on. What's your favourite Christmas movie?
So I listen to a podcast. I play a lot of poker, unfortunately, and they always have this Christmas movie. So I know it's a little soppy. Do you know The Snowman? The animated Snowman one?
Yeah.
So my mother-in-law watches it every Christmas. I used to be like, oh no, not The Snowman again. I must have watched it 20 times. It's actually really good.
Yep.
Is it my favorite of my own choice? Maybe not. But if somebody says, what's your Christmas movie and favorite, I would go with that. And yours?
It's more about what goes with the movie.
Correct.
As well.
And yours?
Mine, so actually similar. So, ritualistically for watching, the Little Drummer Boy and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with the little animated characters, that was always my favourite.
Exactly.
But, okay, we are actually coming to the end of our time now, and I think I'm reading that clock correctly. The crew's waving at me and nodding, and so I feel like I'm doing everything okay for now. Ned, it's been such a pleasure.
No problem.
Thank you so much for sharing, and as I said before, being so open and authentic. That authenticity, that humility, I think just embodies what we're trying to achieve in fintech. So thank you very much.
Thanks, René.
Thank you all for joining us. Once again at the Rapyd office here in the Working Capital and at Boat Key in the networking zone on the virtual map. Stay tuned for some more sessions and we will be back with you very shortly. Thanks very much.